Wrestling moves performed are already an art form within itself, based on how the human body is positioned and the language that it speaks. So what do you get when wrestling moves meet paint? Yes, you get performance art, but you also get wrestling art. BadMan F, aka BadMan F, explores this further in this episode, where we also touch on things like his favorite WWE wrestling character from the Attitude Era and more.
Creator Waves, now loading.
I'm BadMan F, and I'm checking into Creator Waves.
Okay, so where does like wrestling and art where did that come together? How did that come together?
Well, the original story is pretty interesting, but for me, it really comes down to one of my art forms. I like to try to mix the with the quote unquote lowbrow. A lot of people who are into fine art might see, stereotypically, most of those people would see professional wrestling, low culture, for like, just trash culture basically. And I grew up on watching, like, me and my friends, we loved it, and my dad watched it, his dad watched it. I don't know, it's just a cool thing. And it really started though in 2019, I think it was, maybe a little earlier. I was and I brought some paints and I was painting, and we were drinking and smoking and hanging out. So I got a little frustrated. I started wrestling it as a joke, and one of my friends started filming it. And there was this clip that I have that I thought was funny, so I just posted it, and it was kind of cool, and it always stuck with me. And since then, it's like evolved in my head, and I've tried out different versions of it before that. I've done this most recent series called Andy Thussy Fight Night. So it's evolved over a couple years.
Yeah, because in a way you can say that wrestling moves, it is like an art, like the way it's as far as like the way the body is like performing certain moves, the shapes that the way the body is like positioned, the way certain moves are executed, it is like an art. So it's interesting how like you found a way to like translate those movements into visuals, into art, into creating like an art piece.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. I mean, for me, it's like all like wrestling is a lot like professional wrestling is a lot like dancing, and dancers, they're artists. And I think a lot of athletes are, in a way, artists. They have to, like, when they're training and they're working out, that's like them practicing their choreography or their brush strokes or their their straight lines and sewing, any number of things that are artistic. Like I think artists and athletes have like a lot in common, and professional wrestling and dancing and things of that nature are kind of like the intersection of that. So,
Yeah,
I think it's very, I think it kind of makes sense, what you just said, big time for me. It clicks.
Yeah, it's almost like, because one of my favorite wrestlers growing up was Rob Van Dam. And
Oh, I love him.
Yeah, and the way he would like perform, it was like it was art. It was like it was power, but it was elegance.
Mhm.
You know, so imagine like seeing like those movements translated into some form of art visual. That's kind of what you're doing, I guess. It's like
Yeah, and
you're seeing the moves being executed, but then you're seeing like uh visual representation of that movement.
yeah, I mean, definitely. I think like it is a kind of a big thing for me in a lot of my painting work to show movement and rhythm. I think that's something that I'm very one of my, strong suits when it comes to making visual art. And I think these, I've done lots of different forms of abstract painting before this, and I think I kind of know a little bit of what I'm doing when I'm doing these certain moves, and I have like some type of vague idea of how certain things are going to come out, or how I want them to come out when I do a certain move when the paint's wet, or if I put paint on my arm and slap it all over the painting or whatever. Um, but a lot of the works do have this kind of movement or rhythm for me that kind of shows the chaos and I don't know if it's even chaos, but just the maybe the chaotic nature, not just chaos flat, but the chaotic nature of the performance. So,
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, that makes okay. Okay. Um yeah, because I saw the video of you in action and I was like, I've never seen this before. Like I've never seen wrestling moves being used to create art.
mm-hmm.
So then when you bring those two together, it's like it's performance art because you're being entertained by the wrestling moves, but then you're also seeing what um visuals are being created as a result of those wrestling moves that are being executed along against what was it against? Like paper.
Oh, what do you mean? Like the actual canvas that
Yeah, yeah.
I.
What was it?
Oh, it's plywood.
Firewood. Okay.
Plywood.
Plywood. Plywood. Okay. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Plywood. Okay. Okay. Yeah. That's yeah. I'd never seen anything like that before. So I was just
Oh,
like,
thank you. That's to me that's a compliment. That's what I was going for. I think it's very hard, and it's something that's not necessarily important to me when I make my art, but originality, to like truly strive to make something original, or to like have original thought, is like very hard to do, because there's if you search around enough or do enough reading and learning about history, you'll find that some of the ideas that you think are brand new aren't new at all, especially when it comes to art. It's there's been a lot of artists who have done a lot of different things. So I don't even know if I'm the first person to do this. I know that I haven't. I'm not like ripping someone off, like I've seen performance live painting, and I'm definitely inspired by that genre of like performance art. Like the live people have used their bodies to make paintings before. And
mm,
there's even the guy who does like that one artist who does the boxing. A lot of people have been comparing my work to, I don't know his name. Yeah, I think it's a guy. but he does like the boxes on paintings and like puts paint on the boxing gloves.
I think I know who the guy is. I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
So it's like even that you could say like, I mean, I don't know if I had known of his work in the back of my head, so maybe that was an inspiration there. Like I don't think it's, like I'll say this one more time, like originality to me personally isn't important when I'm making my art, and I don't think people like if I was going to give advice to someone, to like another artist, I would say do not get hung up on trying to be original, because it's almost an impossible task, I would argue. But
to strip away all inspiration from like anything, and to just try and do everything original. Is that what you're saying? It's difficult to like say, okay, I'm not getting any inspiration from anyone else. I'm only gonna figure out a way to just do something that no one else has done.
So I would argue that if you try, my argument, which I don't know if people would agree with or not, I guess I haven't talked to enough people about it. My argument is that if you strive to strip away influences and to like kind of be in your own vacuum, and if you strive to create something original, you're gonna fail. It's kind of like like the road to hell is paved with good intentions type beat or something like that. You know what I mean? Like it's I think when you allow influences to mold your art and you use a lot of different, I don't know, I guess, yeah, if you use a lot of different influences in your art and make references, like it's kind of like in the period we're in, we're like towards the end of postmodernism, entering like what some people think is like new sincerity, or like what will be like original art. But like when you blend genres and you blend ideas together, and you allow those influences to be influences on you, you can create something original, because it's like it's kind of like how, almost like if you think about it, like how people are born, it's like two people come together, and sometimes more than two people will raise a child, and it's like the different influences of like everyone who helps raise that child like forms a new person. It's kind of like almost in a weird way, kind of like that,
Yeah.
And
do you watch basketball, the NBA?
A little bit here and there. I'm not a huge I was a wrestler in high school, so there was always kind of like I don't want to say a beef, but like a rivalry between basketball players and wrestlers. So I just was never really into it. But like I love when I'm from outside of Cleveland, so I love when the Cavs do well, and I'm a fan of LeBron's because he's from Ohio, and
because they say LeBron is like Magic Johnson with Karl Malone, like with Karl Malone's build. So then, going back to your point, that makes LeBron original, because you take those two things that weren't they weren't initially existing within one person before, like Magic's like playmaking skills, and Karl Malone's physical build. You bring those together, and we haven't seen someone like LeBron before. So it goes back to kind of what you were saying about you originality involves some influences that come together to form something that you haven't really seen before, because of those different elements that come together to form that original thing.
Yeah, I definitely, I agree with that, and that's my argument for how to achieve originality. I think, yeah, you got to let those influences come in, and you got to let the people that came before you and your contemporaries as well. Like, you should allow as many influences as you can into your art, like into your art. And you don't have to use them all, but you should learn. I think you should definitely learn as much about different artists that are working right now and who came before you. I would aside a little bit more with artists who came before you, because not a lot of people are looking back sometimes. It depends. It depends how far back, or what scene you're in. But I think you're gonna find a lot more if you want to be original or you want to be different. I think you should look backwards into art, whether it's music or clothing or painting. I think you need to look back at what was going on in different periods of time in history, and how people dealt with different scenarios, good times and bad times. It kind of makes you think about what people are doing today, and you can kind of tie the similarities in. I mean, right around the time of the last pandemic, or like, yeah, I think it's considered a pandemic, the flu of the 1919 into 1920, I think it is, or somewhere around there. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah.
Like around 100 years ago, there was like a big flu type pandemic.
I read about that.
That's like right around the time of like, and there's also obviously like World War I was just ending, and that's like around the time of surrealism, or that's around the time of Dadaism into surrealism, or is it vice versa? I should check that. But like around that time, there's a lot of I think surrealism is first and then Dadaism, but it's like the beginning of that Dadaist period of like chaos and just I don't want to say I don't think Dadaism is random. I don't think that's a good word for it, but it's kind of just it reflects the random by itself is not a good explanation. It represents the randomness or the seeming randomness of the universe and the world and how things work, And so I think we're kind of seeing that in art right now. And, like if you're looking also back at history, like right off of World War I and that pandemic, there was the Roaring 20s came after, So it's like, I think we're going to have our own little Roaring 20s possibly, where it's just going to be really crazy, lots of parties and artists and different types of things going on, because people are really wanting to get out and do new things and see things. So I'm excited. I mean, there's still a lot of hardships ahead of us, I think, big time. And the pandemic isn't over yet, but it's I don't know. It's good to look back at history. It was the point that I was trying to make.
I get what you're saying, because then you can understand. It kind of puts the present in perspective a bit more, because you understand, okay, how things developed over time to get to this point. Then you can then it creates some anticipation for like, okay, what's next? Where are things going? How do things develop? How do things push forward?
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
We gotta talk about Mick Foley, because you told me that's like that's one of your biggest inspirations. Like, we have to talk about your love for Mick Foley, and
definitely
different characters that he was able to tap into as well, like during the Attitude Era.
Specifically during the Attitude Era. So Mick Foley, I mean, Mick Foley, when I was a little kid, was never my favorite wrestler, because he was a little before my time. I watched most of my wrestling when I was like, young, like elementary school into middle school. And, that was the 2000s into the 2000, like, that was all the 2000s. And then like in middle school into high school, I was like kind of into it, but I was like looking back at older stuff. And that's when I started to get into like the Attitude Era. And, I really liked the first wrestling group I really liked was D-Generation X, which was like Triple H and Shawn Michaels teaming up to be like bad boys, like anti-establishment. And that's the BadMan F character is very much inspired by like, China, inspired by that kind of style, like, WCW's
that rebellious energy.
Yeah.
Then you had the
then
theme
like
song as well. The theme song
the theme song is so good.
Theme song added to it. Yeah.
Yeah. And then like, WCW had the NWO, the New World Order, which was kind of like the same thing, but it was Hulk Hogan and he was rebranded as bad. But that whole era, they had so many great anti-heroes. That was kind of like the style of the era. With The Rock, Stone Cold Steve Austin, all like so, but
Undertaker.
Mick Foley, Undertaker, exactly.
Yeah.
And Undertaker too is kind of like Mick Foley. That Mick Foley was, sorry, Mick Foley was kind of ahead of his, a little before all those guys. He was somewhat big in the 80s, and he was a really crazy wrestler. And his like first wrestling, his real name was Mick Foley, but his first like real well-known wrestling persona was Cactus Jack, where Cactus Jack, which was like, just this kind of cool anti-hero guy, wore all black, kind of had this like outlaw kind of thing going on with him with the name and whatnot. And
that was the craziest character.
I think I would argue maybe Mankind is his craziest character. I don't know. I mean, they're all all his characters are crazy. They're all like different versions of him.
Dude Love was like delusional.
Yeah.
But in a fun way.
Mm-hmm.
But Cactus Jack was just crazy. Cactus Jack was like he's getting barbed wires, he's getting chair, he's just
the more
and you realize how crazy Cactus Jack was based on how the wrestlers reacted to his different characters. So like Triple H would react to a match with Cactus Jack way more like anxiety compared to a match with Mankind. That's the point I was making. Yeah.
Oh, I see. Yeah, because Cactus Jack is gonna bring out the tacks and the chairs and all that stuff.
All of that. Exactly.
Mankind is crazier in a different way, more of the psychological. But I want to get into that, like the breakdown of those like there's a kind of like the trilogy of the Trinity, I should say, rather, of Mick Foley, and it's Cactus Jack. Then there's Mankind, which he has like the leather mask and Mr. Sacco, and it's kind of the spooky Undertaker type character a little bit.
Yeah,
and
that's the thing as well. Like before he had the the theme song that was like "Have a Nice Day," the "Have a Nice Day." Before the one before that was like an Undertaker type theme song. Like his persona was like dark. Like when he would come out, it would be like the lights would go off. Like it was like when he would wear brown.
Yeah, exactly. The early Mankind was more of a supernatural character.
Down the aisle, weighing 287 pounds, Mankind. Not a pretty sight. Look at this.
That was like a dark theme. Then when he started to wear white, that's when it became a little bit more brighter and a bit more just not as like as dark.
Yeah, it was more like psychological, like
exactly.
Like he's kind of like the madman, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's the cool thing about Mick Foley and his career is that he was able to portray all these different characters, and like everyone knows that it's Mick Foley, but that's like, but you still buy into the character, like even though everyone knew it's Mick Foley, like you can't not, he has curly brown hair, he's a big heavy set guy, like with the beard, like missing teeth, cut off ear, like you know it's him. But like he could just sell the character and really like sell it to the audience that this is like a different person coming out. And that's what I have been striving for with the Andy Thussy Fight Night series, is that right now I'm wearing this makeup. This is the BadMan F character. And I've already in Andy Thussy Fight Night 7, it's called Back in the Backyard, I introduced my second character named Foolhardy. I can send you that message later. But I introduced my second character, Foolhardy, and this character wears a ski mask and is kind of like a crazy, the BadMan F is kind of like a little crazy, but I'm transitioning the character a little bit to be more just anti-hero, kind of rock star. And Foolhardy is the kind of madman, crazy mankind type character. I wear a mask. And it's like very, like kind of very much, I mean, obviously influenced. I don't know. Some might go as far to say that I'm straight ripping him off. I mean, my characters have their own little things and gimmicks, but I'm deeply inspired by Mick Foley. I think he's kind of like the wrestler's wrestler, or maybe more like, maybe not he's definitely the artist wrestler.
He's like the artsy wrestler. Like he can tap into different characters. His costumes were they all different, and even the characters had different. Yeah, they had different personas. Like what Royal Rumble? There was a Royal Rumble where all three of those personas entered into the Royal Rumble. So Cactus Jack entered, Mankind entered, and Dude Love entered. And when all of the different, I can't remember which Royal Rumble.
I don't know about this one.
Yeah, there's a Royal Rumble where all three different characters enter into the Royal Rumble, and when they enter, all different vibes. It's all different. Cactus Jack is wild, crazy. Mick Foley's just like wacky, but like, And then Dude Love is cool. He's got the glasses. He's got the music, the cool music. It's just
and that's the other thing.
And
like,
it's the same person. You know it's the same person. The JR and it's like JR and Jerry
Jerry Lawler.
It's like you even they knew it was the same, but they kind of played it. It was so believable.
It's part of that. It's part of their art form, to stay in character and to really, it's called kayfabe.
I've heard of that.
That's like the official. It kind of has like, I don't know, like a spiritual heaviness, but it's kind of the overall like understanding that like you live your character to the fullest extent, especially when it comes to like interviews and media. And I'm not an actual wrestler, so I'm not committing to kayfabe right now. Like and in a way, like I wanted to touch on that, even when I'm playing, like I would say I'm kind of playing BadMan F right now, as well as I'm playing BadMan F. Is that like I kind of have my own little quirks or things that I, obviously my real name isn't BadMan F, so I think it's just, I think Mick Foley just reveals a lot to us about the human psyche and like how we present ourselves in situations. And it's almost like a postmodern take of the art form of wrestling, like, committing to these characters and like playing with that, like everyone knows he's not these characters, but at the same time everyone believes it.
Yeah.
It's just like creating this like crazy theater in front of us, you know? I don't know.
Do you know what was like made it even better was when he started becoming the Mick Foley character.
Mm-hmm.
So then it was kind of like where you took a step back and you was like, wow, so okay, he can transform into Cactus Jack in any moment. He can transform into Mankind or Dude Love in any moment.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like it helped you separate the human behind all of those characters, but then at the same time you could see the possibility of him going back into those different characters. So I think that was like genius the way they did it. I don't know whose idea it was, but someone in the WWE, whoever that was, I think that was genius.
I think a lot of it was Mick Foley. You know, he was a very well respected wrestler in the WWF, now the WWE at the time. And he was just very, you know, there's a lot of stories about like wrestlers, like, you know, saying things like, you know, when everyone went out and partied after the shows, like Mick Foley would go to his hotel room and read, you know, and he was just always like, he's just a creative type person. He loves to read. He does stand up now. He writes, he does all types of stuff. And, you know, I think he was just always coming up with ideas and wanted to try out new things. And, you know, as he got more popular, they just, you know, when he came up with a new character, it was kind of like, yeah, you're not going to say no to Mick, you know?
Yeah.
So,
and he took,
I think a lot of it was him, you know, like there are writers and there are, you know, people who help the wrestlers with their characters, but Mick Foley was really, you know, and a lot of the really good wrestlers are the creative minds behind their personas, because they have to live it. They have to live, like the best wrestler personas are people who perform it well.
Yeah.
That's what makes it a great persona, is like the way The Rock talks when he was in the ring, you know, it's just like
Stone Cold.
Yeah, any of those great memorable
we gotta give credit to Undertaker as well. The way he was able to like, because when he eventually introduced the American Badass character, you could tell that's the character he truly wanted to be, as opposed to the dark Undertaker.
Yeah, because that's a whole different way of storytelling. It's more of a, you know, not saying very much. You know, it's just the presence of his you know, he's a big guy, he's strong, he has all these tattoos. It's just like his physical presence almost, you know, and his what really sells the Undertaker character.
He embodied like that Undertaker character so well. The dark,
I mean, both. I think he did both well.
You thought?
Oh, I think he did both really well.
He did both,
you know,
well, but the American badass one is like, it felt like that's him in real life. Like that's really him. You know.
Definitely.
The other Undertaker is like he had to embody it. He had to like live it. He had to
and you know, yeah.
One of the most extraordinary athletes in the entire history of the World Wrestling Federation.
Yeah, I mean, it's all in the wrestling performance that he had to sell it. So, like, that's what makes him just a great technical wrestler too. Is that, you know, And most of the wrestlers do. They embody their character during the performance too. It's not just like, oh, okay, now we do the promo and we talk and then we wrestle. Like, you have to play the character the whole time, and that does take a lot out of your and mental and physical for what they're doing. So it's just really, it's really impressive, and it's not. I'm sure it was a little easy. No, I don't want to say easier, but it was probably a little less daunting and mentally draining to play the American Badass, to have a little more fun with it. And I think that's part of why Mick Foley wanted to do the different characters. I think he was so obsessed and so so committed to playing these characters that he needed breaks from the characters. That's what I think. He was so good and so committed that it's just, I think that might be, kind of a reason for it.
Yeah. But what did you think of Dude Love?
Dude Love is, I'm working on a Dude Love type character as well. It's like it's just fun, He's a goofy guy in tie-dye with the fun promos. It's like you can't not like Dude Love. And but it's definitely like there's not a whole lot of room necessarily for, as like artistically, like I kind of am drawn to like more darker stuff. So, and I do want to play the really fun upbeat character too. So that's why I am working on a Dude Love character, but I think it was necessary to show off like Mick Foley's range. A lot of these guys, they go on to be actors, like John Cena and The Rock and things like that. So I think that was part of it, is just like him showing off his abilities as a performer. And the thing about the Dude Love character is that he was friends with Shawn Michaels, and like before around the time he was coming up with Dude Love, or like a little before, like Shawn Michaels like asked Mick Foley something about like, what did you like want to be? Because that's like what they would always ask each other sometimes. Like, you try to be a character, the fans don't like it, it doesn't sell, so they help you come up with a new character, and that one sells, so you're kind of stuck with that character. And so like that's kind of, the character, the wrestlers are always trying out things. And Mick Foley, anyway, Shawn Michaels says like, what did you want to be? And Mick Foley says, oh, I wanted to be you. And Shawn Michaels like laughed, and if for people who watching don't know who Shawn Michaels is, he's like the pretty boy rock star. His nickname's the Heartbreak Kid. He's the fun loving, like the kids love him, the women love him. He's just the cool rock star guy. And so that's like kind of where I think like Dude Love was supposed to be like Mick Foley's Shawn Michaels in a way, or like any number of characters that kind of like embody them more, like the sex appeal, or just like the fun, like
the fun
more
side.
positive. Yeah. So that's like an interesting, like Dude Love is like kind of like that version of Mick Foley, like if he was the cool rock star guy, because like
that's I never looked at it that way, because I didn't know the backstory of that. So yeah. So what do you think about memes? Why do you use memes?
The first answer is I just love memes. I think most people in our generation can say that this, but I've been tapped into the internet, since I was in middle school or whenever it was accessible to me, and I was like, felt comfortable using it a lot. And memes, I like them. They're entertainment, but that's where, you can start to look into the second answer, which is the more artistic, academic answer, is that it's a form of visual art. And I think some people would argue that memes have taken over as the primary visual art force that moves ideas and that the most people are looking at. You know, it used to be commercial art. It used to be like Andy Warhol and Roy Lichtenstein. Is that how you say his name? Roy Lichtenstein. I think that's how you say his name. But anyway, like, it used to be commercial art. You know, that was the forefront of what, you know, magazine covers and Andy Warhol prints and, you know, whatever. That was the forefront of visual art and what people knew as that. And now it's memes. That's what the most people are looking at.
That's
And
I feel like that's what brings people together the most at this point.
Yeah. And, you know, out of all the, you know, I've done lots of different art forms, filmmaking, painting, clothes making, and now memes for the last year. Like, I've always messed around with memes, but I've done it more seriously and been like tapped into the community for the last year and some change. And I haven't grown an art following as fast as I have done with my memes, you know, with any other art form. And, you know, some people don't even think that memes are an art form, but I would argue forever with people that they are, you know.
They are for sure.
All right.
Especially as far as the storytelling.
Oh, there is such a storytelling aspect and art form to memes, and you know, it's like a comic book, you know, or like a comic strip. It's like words.
It's like a real life comic book. It's like a comic book based on like real life, real time experiences, real time situations, scenarios, all of that.
So I would argue that one single meme is like one panel of a comic book, and that like your Instagram feed or your Twitter feed is the comic book itself, you know. So
okay, yeah, true. Yeah, okay,
but it's kind of like but it's backwards. It's in reverse order, you know.
Yeah, true. All right, just get into your wrestling character. BadMan F.
BadMan F. All right. That's good. What's going on? BadMan F here.
When did this start? Where did this?
Well, my training.
BadMan F.
Well, my training. It started a long time ago, in a place called Hell, Ohio. I was trained by a wrestling legend. I can't really say their name. They don't want their name out there, and I don't want all these other amateur professional wrestlers like myself to try to get out there and get to my mentor. So, you know, don't want to blow them up, you know. But it started many years ago. I've been training, and I'm undefeated. And on my 6th fight, they finally gave me my championship belt. I'm the inter-animated champion of the United States. That means I'll take on anything, inanimate or animated, you know? I'll take on anything or anyone.
What's the key phrase? What's the key phrase for BadMan F? Give me some phrases.
I got a couple phrases. I don't know if I have any really phrases, you know. You know, I always give a shout outs to my Thussy Maniacs. Shout outs to the Thussy Maniacs watching. You know, I'm the Thussy's champion. I'm the Dirt Devil. I'm BadMan F, you know. I don't really, you know, I'm a shit walker, not a shit talker. You know, I walk, I don't talk. You know, that's the whole thing about BadMan F.
So you let your actions do the talking.
Oh yeah, big time. You know, I'm one of the most underrated performers on the Eastern Seaboard. You know, I gotta let my actions do the talking, because too many people nowadays just wanna yap, 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 yap. Try to get a championship belt, then maybe you can yap or something.
Your style, your shades. Are you wearing a suit? Like what's the style?
I got a tie. I got a tie on. I got some nice pants, a leather jacket, real leather right here. You know, I'm a prize fighter. I'm a champion, so I dress like a champion. And when I'm fighting, I dress like a fighter. You know, my style is, I don't know what to call it. It's Midwestern. It's 80s inspired. It's 90s inspired. It's inspired by a bit of everything. The 2000s, you know, it's all there. I kind of wear whatever makes me feel good is what the important thing is for me. I don't know really how to define it.
The makeup, why is it designed in that way?
Well, you know, a lot of people see my makeup and they think of the Joker and whatever. It's really that when it comes down to it, I'm a clown, you know? I'm a rock star clown. You know, I'm out there performing for all of you and trying to make you laugh, trying to make you cry, you know, just basically trying to give you one of the best matches that you've ever seen, you know? So I'm just I'm nothing more than just a crazy rodeo clown, sort of, you know. I'm here to possibly get a little hurt, a little beat up, but to give everyone watching a good time.
Yeah.
This is the championship belt. They gave this to me after my 6th win live in New York City. Andy Thussy Fight Night number 6. They gave me this. That's because I'm the interanimated champion of the United States. I said it once, I'll say it again. I'll take on any object, inanimate or animate, anything or anyone.